Hey, Dad, it's me.
And so I wanted to ask you, what is your personal relationship to financial literacy? Like, how did you come into understanding personal finance?
Well, like a lot of young men who come from black families, I didn't really grow up with a lot of wealth in the family. There wasn't a legacy of wealth for our people who came over, for the most part, as enslaved people. Mm-hmm. So we started from a negative, and we tried to rebuild and build wealth along the way. It was a struggle for many black families, including my own family when I was a young man. But I remember getting my first job at 14 years old.
14.
And one of the first things I did was go get me a little passbook savings account. In fact, I remember riding my bike to the bank.
Nice.
And tried to go to the drive-thru because I didn't want to leave my bike outside.
You tried to go to the drive-thru with your bike?
Yes. They said, you got to come inside, but you can't bring your bike in. I'm a big believer in black folks owning their own. Because for so many years with redlining, we were kept out of home ownership. It was hard for us to get loans.
Yeah.
And hard for us to go into neighborhoods where we may want to be.
Yeah.
But we did it, my wife and I, and we raised a family in those homes.
Yes, you did. It's a beautiful home.
Our communities realize the importance of financial literacy and the lack of education that has historically existed for Black people. This conversation focuses on what we do have and how we should invest, protect, and grow our resources to build long-lasting legacies like the legacy of Black Wall Street. Taking a page from our history, we will discuss the importance of Black-owned business, Black banking, and Black Wall Street, but also the basics of what every single person needs to know to jumpstart their financial planning in 2021 and beyond. This episode of More Than That is brought to you by General Motors. You can learn more about General Motors' commitment to fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion at gm.com.
First and foremost, we have to change our relationship with money. We're taught in our community that we got to work hard for money.
It can be really hard to manage your money when you are constantly having money coming in here and going out there.
There's a lot of strategies you can do actually to get out of debt.
Even if you were to have stacks on stacks on stacks, racks on racks on racks, that doesn't mean that the rest of your financial life is not a hot mess.
The truth of the matter is that money needs to work hard for us.
The first thing is hiring sound financial help for your business.
Financial wholeness is when all aspects of your financial life are working together for your greatest good, your biggest benefit, and your richest life. Did you hear that?
Between all the myths, stereotypes, and generational money curses I was hearing about, I realized that in order to get in the headspace of financial freedom, I need to understand all the positives too. When it comes to the few conversations we generally have around money, I know there has to be more than that. A person that I've looked up to for such a long time, but I want to make sure I introduce her correctly. She is the first VC fund builder for women of color by women of color with the Fearless Fund. She is an author, a philanthropist, a motivator, a boss. She started in PR and marketing, and now she's taking her career to the next level by making sure that other Black women are supported in their businesses and making other people's dreams come true as she continues her work fearlessly. Please welcome the incredible Arian Simone to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you, Gia, for that amazing introduction. I appreciate the compliments.
So can you talk to me about the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to building our wealth?
Yes. As a venture capitalist, I will say this. There is a barrier of lack of education that definitely exists around the subject of even what we do day to day here at the fund. Myself, Keisha, Ayana, it was just like, oh my gosh, we have to, one, educate our community and then get them on board with this. But as far as to answer your question, when it comes to mindset and finances, I wrote a book on it because people, just about this one principle, people have more fear in being broke than they do faith in having abundance. And it's just that simple. It's just either you are going to choose to be in fear or you're going to choose to be in faith when it comes to your finances. And whatever story that you continue to tell yourself is what's going to continue to manifest in your life. So you want to make sure that you're on the right side of that so that you're producing the proper fruit that would come from being on the right side of that, though, too.
Absolutely. And so what is one major mantra or mindset motivator that people should be saying to themselves if they are just starting to reset their thoughts?
Oh, from a place of gratitude, and they should be always telling themselves, I have more than enough. You have everything that you need in this life to do whatever it is you're supposed to do. But so often you're always looking for, oh, I need this to get this done, or I need that to get this done. You're operating from a place of lack when you need to be operating from a place of I have more than enough. And just something I do that's just very simple is I keep a gratitude list and I write down the things that I'm grateful for. And I operate from that place every day, that I start my day off in gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful that I have all of these things. I'm grateful for all of the money we're raising for the fund. I'm grateful for all of the investors. I'm grateful for all of the portfolio companies. But just starting from that place of being grateful for what you have will always open up your atmosphere for more.
In schools, they should be teaching personal finance over algebra and trigonometry, especially if you're not about to be a mathematician, which most of us are not. So what are some resources for even like adults or young college students that they should be tapping into in order to build personal wealth that is positive and able to help them secure the future that they want?
That is very much so true, because a lot of the things that we have learned in school, they may not be applicable in day-to-day life. I read a book around the age, I think it was 25, called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And that was definitely a mind shift, and you having to go back in your childhood to see where that programming was that may have had you in a place of deficit that you didn't have to be because you didn't even realize that you were programmed that way. But when it comes to just basic principles, now the internet is our oyster. There's different things that you can just go online, from webinars to anything that I would say is accessible, from just basic things as far as, okay, how much money should I be saving from my check? How much money should be going towards retirement? How much needs to be going towards investing? Though I would say what we're doing now is somewhat, I guess you would say, on trend. Oh, they're like, oh my gosh, they have a venture capital fund. But the reality is only about 5% to 10% of your portfolio should be going to venture. Now, I have to give a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, but that is what people will tell you. About 5 to 10% would be going to venture. And what venture capital is that you're investing money in exchange for equity. So I'm giving somebody cash in exchange for ownership in their business. And they view us as an opportunity because we also are a strategic partner. So meaning we won't just be giving capital. People have access to just our resources. They have access to our network. They have access to anything that we choose to offer the business. So it's more so that relationship. When people are looking for investors, they want to make sure that they see that that marriage is there. This person can give more than just their capital, that they actually have support for the business. And we teach, I would say, at our foundation, at the Fearless Foundation, we teach on venture capital. We teach on that area all the time. So people can go to our website for resources on that. We also have a resource portal that has webinars in it, that has applications in it, that has different areas of financing, from loans to grants to all different areas of funding. We educate in our space a lot because we knew that in our community there was just like this lack of education. So we do provide resources all the time.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. General Motors proudly supports building positive change together. We trust in the future. We trust it with our safety, our well-being, our legacy. We celebrate you. We celebrate Black excellence this month and every month, today, tomorrow, and for every generation to come. General Motors aspires to be the world's most inclusive company and is committed to helping create a clean, safe, and equitable world for all. Learn more at gm.com. I've been hearing about a ton of endeavors to support Black equity, financial literacy, and generational wealth. I've been seeing a whole lot of buzz around the Black Dollar Index and how it's holding companies accountable. But more importantly, it's empowering consumers like us so that we can shop with brands that actually support us. I reached out to the founder, Kelle Rozell, because I had to know more. So Kelle, tell me how the Black Dollar Index came to be.
My background, I'm a marketer. I've been in corporate spaces since the beginning of my career, which I think I'm approaching, 17 or so years, starting back with the music industry and then transitioning into television. Fast forward to 2020, We were in the middle of a pandemic. A group of us were having a Zoom brunch every week, talking about everything that was going on in the news and in our personal lives. And on the week of May 25th, George Floyd was murdered by the police. And it became the topic of conversation for the week. It was very heavy. We were very emotional. And we talked about it. And then we took a week to kind of think about solutions. So when we came back the following week, we had people that were very much talking about getting on the front lines and protesting. We had people that were talking about supporting Black owned and operated. And I think just my natural marketing background within corporate culture kind of kicked in, and I started to really think about companies and people like Ken Chenault, who was the former American Express CEO, one of the few Black Fortune 500 CEOs. And it kind of sent me down a rabbit hole to kind of question what the rest of these Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies look like. And instead of having all this piecemeal data, I wanted to create a big picture and make it as tangible and quantifiable as possible. So I really wanted to just put all of this data in a spreadsheet and come up with a formula and output a tangible number that Black consumers can understand. The most important thing is, as consumers, we should be as informed and intentional as we can with our buying power. The spending power of Black Americans is at $1.4 trillion. I think in the next 3 or so years, it's going to be up to like $1.8 trillion. So, when you take certain categories, there might be people that are supporting the Black community much better through hiring practices, through the way that they're giving back. I would take note of those companies and make a conscious effort to spend your money with them versus ones that aren't doing as well. And I think that the more we can make those conscious, informed decisions, we're really going to start pushing racial equity, because the companies that aren't getting the dollar are going to know that they have work to do. They're going to start giving more Black people jobs, giving Black people more positions that are decision-making positions that can then affect how money is given back to the community.
Talking to Arian earlier and learning about the Black Dollar Index had me thinking about Black Wall Street again and wondering, what does a modern-day Black Wall Street actually look like?
Equity is so important. Ownership is just so important, because you can't argue and fight for equality from a subservient position. You have to come to the table with something in order for the argument to even be level. So you want to make sure, you have to something to leverage. If you're just always in this place of where it may look like a beg or an ask, I'm like, no, this needs to look like a demand. But in order to be at that place to get the demand fulfilled, we have to be in a place of empowerment where it's also equitable. We have to own things. At our fund, we thrive and we get excited when we are the Black company on the cap table. And we are on cap tables with other Black funds too. So we co-invest alongside a lot of Black investors. And that is so empowering. We even there's certain meetings we'll go into, and then I'm like, oh gosh, we have a whole Black room of all VCs. And they're like, there's all check cutters in the room. And what are we going to go in on? And I'm like, this right here. I'm like, this is what it's about. And when I say cap table, for anybody who's listening, the capitalization table basically is the spreadsheet that shows the equity distribution of a company. So if somebody hasn't been invested in yet, they're the only persons on the cap table. If they've been invested in, then you're just going to show the next equity distribution that went to, so-and-so now has 5%, 10% or whatever on the cap table. But that's what that is. But yeah, equity is very much so important. Black women are starting businesses more than any other demographic. We are the most founded. We're just the least funded. I will say this, especially when I'm talking about equity, it's not just in the area of business. It's in the area of home ownership. It's in the area of land. It's in the area of all of that. I hope that what we're building and what I see others building, it's making it more attractive and more pop culture driven for people to get involved in this space. I do know right now that the tech industry is the largest wealth producing industry in the world, and we have to partake in this again. We have to have ownership in it if we want to have argument in it. So we have to come to the table with something. I will say that I do see a lot of progress. I know it's not going to be something that would resolve overnight, but I'm enjoying seeing all of the progression in this area. I do think that we've definitely in the midst of a movement and that this is definitely headed somewhere. We just have to keep pounding the pavement.
You recently said in a post that it is your dream to help others build their dreams. And I want you to end on that note because I think that is so important to hear as a community, what that means to you as the first VC capital firm owner for women of color, by women of color, what that phrase really means to you, helping other people build out their dreams.
My dream is to help make others' dreams come true. And I've done that in every aspect of business that I've ran, even prior to this business. It's just that this is the vehicle in which I'm doing it currently. And I think that is so important that we approach life with a servant's heart, because when you're always of service to others, you always want to be in business. But when you're always of service to others, I really think that you can definitely make a larger impact in the world.
My grandfather on my mom's side had a landscaping business. And in fact, he would employ us to go help out the young men in the family. We did the black graveyard every day. And we would go and clean it up. And, he's rested there now and went along next side to my grandmother. But on the other flip side is my father's mother owned a huge working farm in another town in Zebulon, North Carolina. And she was a farmer. That was their business. And when you were old enough to stand up and walk, she would put you out there in the fields. So I learned the value of hard work through both of them and watching them and seeing their commitment. Thank gosh, we've grown as a people when we realize the value of, supporting our own and keeping our money in our community,
yes,
which is huge.
Yes.
The big thing for us was trying to grow wealth through a multiple of avenues, from real estate to investing in our children, in their future.
You guys did a great job.
That's the big investment for us. Money's great, but it's not everything. We are big believers in growing wealth through our own children and watching them succeed. And we're so happy about that.
Well, thank you, Dad, for all of your advice over the years and for being the best dad ever. And thank you for being on More Than That with me, Gia Peppers.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yay.
Okay, guys, that was a lot, but this is just the beginning of the money conversation. I plan to do a lot more research for myself around financial literacy and how to actively build generational wealth within my family. So I hope this sparks a dialogue in your own family because we know knowledge is power and financial power is the key to our freedom. With over $1 trillion, yes, $1 trillion of spending power in the Black community, we definitely have the means. Now we gotta stay together and continue to use it. The more we know about our finances, the more empowered we are to make our dreams come true. And if you're like me, you have a lot of dreams. So that means we gotta do a lot of studying. Financial knowledge is an important building block to creating sustainable wealth, as we've discussed all season long. So let's continue to be intentional about our power that comes in so many forms, through our voices, how we spend, and most importantly, where we shop. Our choices dictate our futures, and the future holds endless possibilities. Knowing where you are is the first step. So whether you're making millions or you never made a budget in your life, there's always room for improvement. Check out some of our great resources in the show notes to improve your abundance mindset. I know I'll be checking them out myself. Thank you to all of our guests that joined today. Arian and Kelle, your time was invaluable. If you like what you heard, subscribe and give us a rating, and follow us at More Than That Show on social media for even more real-time updates. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you learned a whole lot. This episode of More Than That was brought to you by General Motors. Visit gm.com for more on their commitment to becoming the most inclusive company in the world.